Hey, what's up, everyone? So I wanted to make this video to really talk about the number one strategy that we use to allow your front desk to really improve their conversions on leads, right? There's so many times you invest so much money in your marketing and you think you need new patients. Well, new patients really come from your conversion rate, right? Because if you have, let's say, 100 leads, a lead is defined to me as a name, email, or phone number, someone who gave you their information, but you're converting at 40%, then you don't really have a leads issue. You have a conversion issue. So we want to make sure our front desk is trained in that sense. Now, our business or my business, the three clinics that we have, they're out of network. What does that mean? So whether you call it cash pay out of network, I guess we're that hybrid, right? What does that mean? Well, we don't take insurances in network, but we do take it out of network. We also generally take obviously cash as well too. So if you don't have any insurance, we do that. So it is imperative that our front desk is super, super strong. So some background stuff, right? Before we kind of say, hey, there's only one strategy. Well, we know that's not true, right? So I wanted to share my screen because this is a background that you definitely need. You need the right system, right? What is your sales script to your front team, all right? This is the prerequisite. Number two, do they have that flow chart or, like I said, a script, some kind of solid training foundation wise that they have in order to, seamlessly scale the way your company takes a call? And lastly, do you guys role play? Man, these are two kind of videos in a library that we have to our staff. And what it is our recent hire, Emma. She's amazing. And I get kind of my hands dirty in the sense of allowing the sales training to occur with just me and her. Now, for me, just to get into the weeds a little bit, and I hope I don't lose you guys, getting into weeds is we train 4 times every 2 weeks. The first time I train, I give the overview of the script and the stages. And the second time, I'm going to do the same thing and just kind of making it a little bit more complex. And then we're going to start the role play. Remember, leaders lead. She needs to hear me really play out and sound out the way the calls should be taken. And then training 3 and 4, I want her to really lead the way, doing a lot of role playing. I'll give her some scenarios. And then role 4 is when I kind of bring in the whole team, and they should be really leading the way. I'm going to go through pulling out calls that we have and sharing that. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not bad. So you want to also have this so your team could go back into it. So having all that set as your biggest foundation, that needs to be said. If it is not, you can still use the strategy, but I will tell you, without that foundation, it could be kind of lost a little bit too. So let me stop sharing my screen. So here it is. The number one strategy to allow your front desk to convert better is teaching them a pattern interrupt. And what a pattern interrupt for me is just asking more questions. And wow, that wasn't mind blowing. Well, what happens a lot of times is if you ever have the chance, or you can do it right after this video, call up your office and think about some reason why they will not, convert. And a lot of times our front desk just hangs up the phone. Or maybe you'll kind of drip them into some kind of nurture system that you have. Generally, I'd say 2%. Again, where does that number come from? Just from conversations that I have with other business owners. They don't really have a way to track things, or they don't track things. So when we have a phone call, I believe, that is the time to close the deal. So I go back into kind of what your goal is as a front desk or the person picking up the phone. Their goal really is to get a yes or a no. Yes, you might think it's to get new clients, of course, but there are other steps to do that. The phone call really is to get a yes from a person. Are they interested in coming into our PT clinic, or is it a no? The reason why we don't want to be in a maybe is because that's a lot of work. We can take that data and really kind of say, man, we need to market better. We're marketing to poor leads, right? Maybe it's internal. Maybe the front desk is not holding their weight. So for this conversation, we at least know, is it a yes or a no? If it's a maybe, then we have to really track if our front desk is going to actually call that person back. Is that other person being nice? So we want to teach them the skill set to say, hey, let's do this, because when we get off the phone, our goal is what? Our goal is to get a yes or no from our leads, okay? So pattern interrupt is number one strategy I'm mentioning. This pattern interrupt is a very important skill to teach. And pattern interrupt really is asking more questions. And if you go back into talking about the obstacles or objections of why a client will not, really continue care with you or buy from you, it's because they just don't know, like, and trust you, right? They think you're too expensive or whatever the case might be. It doesn't matter. So take the pressure off your front desk. The first thing you're going to do is teach them to ask more questions. That's what the pattern interrupt is. So here's the example. I'm on a phone call and someone says, I just love to work with you guys, but you guys are too expensive. So now the pattern interrupt is, I'd ask another question. So what am I going to ask? So can I ask you a question? What is too expensive for you? Well, 175 is too expensive. Well, I can understand that. So let me ask you another question. What are you looking for in a PT, right? And allow them to speak. You see, sometimes when we have these scripts, and yes, we're teaching our front desk that, but it takes some experience and some comfort level for them to really sound human, not sound salesy, right? We need that person to actually interact with the other person. And sometimes when your front desk has some nervous tendencies, either they're ready to get off the phone or they're going to just throw up on that other person, that they're just not going to listen to you, right? They're just going to say, oh gosh, all right, I'm done. So pattern interrupt is asking more questions. Why is it too expensive? What is too expensive? Is that really expensive? You almost want to break this myth and understand what that other person is thinking, what their resistance is. Now, are you going to convert everyone at all times? Absolutely not. Okay. You know it, it's a numbers game, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure we answer the questions that's going to really give that client or that lead the best information that they're going to take. Okay. So here's another example. The objection is, I got to think about it, right? So again, you would think that was a good thing. It's not a good thing. So pattern interrupt, ask more questions. What questions could we ask? It's too, I got to think about it. Oh, I get that. I understand that. So question, what are you thinking about? The reason why I asked that, because I want to make sure before we get off the phone, I want to give you every information that you can take in order to best make that decision. And then some people might say, it's too expensive. Oh, I only wanted to see Karn, right? Or PTA or PTB or OTA or OTB, right? So you want to be sure you kind of continue that dialogue. Allow them to speak. Let the other side speak. Let's not be so robotic. Let's not be so salesy, because we don't like being sold. But if we know, like, and trust you, build rapport on the other side, that person is most likely going to convert and become a patient because they want to get better. And now we can start focusing. We use pattern interrupt, and now we have them focus on their outcome, the results, right? So again, you think we're too expensive. I get it. We are not cheap. I guess if you define that as more than $100, we do charge $175. But I'll tell you why, right? You've bought time for your salesperson to really slow things down, right? Now they can start adding their own swag to it. They can really go back and double down on the benefits of the business or the products, or they can continue to ask questions until they get that trigger to really kind of sell the other side, right? And obviously, if it's true. So again, if I'm going to kind of play it out again, I'm going to say, well, you think we're too expensive? Great. What are you looking for in a new PT or in your plan of care or your care? All right, got to get the PT words out of my mouth. What are you looking for in a PT? Oh, interesting. Have you ever been to PT? Gotcha. You mentioned on our call that you wanted to get your back pain a lot better so you can kind of play with your children, babysit and all that good stuff. Well, how long do you think that's going to take? So again, you start kind of just pulling and asking questions. So now you can kind of answer back and provide that information to that lead to say, this is why you're the choice. And at the end of the day, when all the questions are asked, then you go back into that last question, which is great. So it seems like I kind of answered everything that you wanted. So what are your thoughts? When are you ready to start? Are you wanting to start? Are we the right fit? And then your team has to make sure they are quiet. But pattern interrupt is the most important thing. Now, if you're making all these scripts and all that, sometimes it's very overwhelming for your front desk. I always suggest to have objections, right? We're too expensive, we're this, we're that, we don't take your insurance, da, 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 da. We want that pattern interrupt, okay? Another and last example I'll leave you just to kind of beat a dead horse. Another way to use pattern interrupt that we always get is when someone picks up the phone, hey, it's Con for New York Sport and Spinal, can I help you? We're gonna get, yeah, you can help me. Do you guys take Blue Cross Blue Shield? And again, pattern interrupt is asking questions. I don't want to make this relationship transactional, so I don't want to answer. No, we don't. No, it's a little bit more complex. Well, Joe, let me ask you a couple of questions, if I may. First of all, I want to make sure we're the right fit. What kind of PT are you looking for? What are you coming in for, et cetera? Now, this person might just be like, hey, look, I just want to know if you take my insurance. That's okay too, right? We want to make sure that we change this thing into being transactional to relationship. You're not going to win all of them, but imagine how many calls come in and they just screw up the script. They're dictating the way the conversation is going. No, we are training our front desk to really take hold of the conversation. Build rapport, number one. Once we build rapport, then we can ask about the injury. Once we ask about the injury, now we're very close to getting that person to know, like, and trust us. And now we can really talk about the product, right? So I hope that helped. That number one strategy, it's all about pattern interrupt, asking more questions, the power of questions, right? And start tracking that stuff. Let your team see how many leads do they get in, how much do they convert, what's your percentage. In network, you should be pretty high because most calls that you're getting, you're taking their insurance anyway. So if that is not 80% and above, you definitely have a front desk problem. If it's out of network or if it's cash pay, again, I'm going to kind of say it's within that 45 to 50 range, again, just from experience ourselves. So again, what is your number? The number is just a number. The standard is your standard, okay? But the number one strategy to get leads converting into new patients is that pattern interrupt. I hope that helped you. Please comment. Let me know if it did. Let me know some examples. Let me know how I can further engage you guys in the sense of great content and kind of build on this, because obviously I chunked it into one specific piece, but we know that front desk lead sales script, it's a lot more complex. All right. Hope that helped, and talk to you guys soon.